Welcome everybody to another Advancing Consciousness series episode. We apologize for the delay. If you're on YouTube, we were not getting on. We've had a lot of challenges trying to get on. So you missed the whole introductional component, and then of course you got to watch a stagnant picture here. But anyways, we finally got YouTube up. Facebook was up right from the beginning, and so we weren't having any problems with that, and also with Vimeo. So I apologize for the delay. And thank you for your patience for waiting. So here we are today. We're playing with episode 45. I also like to say that last week I was not functional at all. So in essence, we had to cancel the episode that we planned to do, which was today. And of course, a few other cancellations happened this past week. So here we are. We're back on track. We're pushing through, and we're going to be giving us the opportunity to play together, and it's another opportunity. So here we are, episode 45, and is just existing in this current life our true purpose and meaning? Okay, this keeps coming up in a very powerful way, and we felt very strongly to really play with it today. Because at this point, a lot of people are starting to feel quite uncomfortable with a lot of things that are going on in their lives. And a lot of it has to do with what's coming up for us. And I'm not just talking about program stories and all of that stuff, but also the energies, the emotions around it, and so forth. But then we have a tendency to go into this review mode. And what does that review mode mean? Looking at our life from the moment you were born till now. And then the ego likes to get involved in comparisons and going through comparing yourself with the different things that you possibly had as an option, but also comparing yourself to others. But then we also have the other part, which we can throw in, which is comparing with what we believed our life was about. Now, of course, the whole story keeps coming up for many of us at this point in time. You know, what's my purpose here? What am I doing? And it's coming up in a much more powerful way. So anyways, let's play with that today. Let's get into the play. So let us look at our current life and our role, how it fits in with our true nature and purpose of being here. It's a big one. How does it fit in? Now, all of us, one way or another, from a soul perspective, from a human entity perspective, even from your own body, have worked to come together to create such alignments, make a beautiful dance and orchestration with your family dynamics and anything and everything that came about for a very specific purpose. Now the purpose, yes, we've come here to play. Absolutely. We came here to enjoy this beautiful playground that we're in. We also came here to gain experience, advance ourselves, become more enlightened. Absolutely. But we at the same time, by doing all of that, we all brought in different aspects from the soul, from the human entity, and from our body as an express or sharing or contribution to what we call the game of life. You don't take on a form. You do not go through all those organizations and so forth to not play out a particular role. Now, of course, we've all played different roles, and now the roles do change. The roles do adjust accordingly based on what we want to do, because it's not just one primary saying this is the way I need to go and everything builds around that. Yes, you're saying, okay, at certain stages, I will play these various roles. And as we're stepping forward, those roles will change for us. At the beginning, we have to get used to a body. We got to get used to the playground around us. We have to get used to all the playmates that we have in our life. We learn from that. We learn from our expressions, our experiences, our engagements that we get ourselves involved with. And all of it is purposeful to really get a good feel of the human experience. And then as you move along, you now step into different facets of your roles, different facets of what you can call your purpose. What does that look like? Well, it looks like at different stages that you will play specific roles with specific individuals. You may play roles with, wherever you are in your groups. Could be a role in your family, could be a role within all your friendships, could be a role in your community, and so forth. Now, these roles, again, are not always physical in the sense of I am doing this. It may contribute or be part of it, yes, but at the same time, it could be just the energy that you're holding or the fact that just your regular interactions with people already set the stage, already create such a powerful change in so many ways to be able to play that role that you need to play. Of course, some part of the roles that we've agreed to is go into complete amnesia, to forget who we are, to forget, even our purpose, so that we can really get into the depths of the game and achieve a higher understanding of the game so that you can go into another phase of another role to play as you move along. So this, when you're looking at all of this, how it's all coming together, it's been so well orchestrated. You've taken so much part in all of the orchestration before coming here, before taking on a combinational aspect of yourself, being a body, a human entity, and a soul, before doing all of that. And also the arrangements and so forth that you may have made with the family dynamics and everybody else that you came across as you move along through the different stages. Of course, we have multiple roles too, because you will play one role with your family, one role with your friendship, one role with your work environment, school, you name it. There's so many different roles, community, and so forth. Now, the roles, in a sense, would not alter who you are in the sense of what you came here to express, but you will adopt accordingly to what the role is required for those agreements. Now, we do make agreements. We do make agreements to play with certain individuals. We make agreements to go into certain groups. We do make arrangements and agreements to hold a space for a specific experience. And that experience that you hold the space for actually allows all of the other role players that you've made agreements to achieve or experience or be part of what you have to offer by, the agreements do change. Agreements do alter. Agreements do adjust accordingly. Why do they do so? Well, because depending on what is orchestrated, because nothing is fixed. Even though you came here a long time ago, nothing was actually fixed, that it all plays out, like what we call destiny. Now, there's a certain part that may be fixed to a certain degree, but it still has flexibility. Now it's a whole different story. Nothing is fixed in any way, shape, or form. However, it will base on the progress that not only you're making, but all the people involved, the planet, and everything else. All the different introductions that are being made at different points in time to allow us to go through the different experiences and changes and so forth that occur on the planet. So all of this is so carefully orchestrated. Now, some of us have made agreements with beings that are off planet. And these beings chose to work with you, and you've chose to agree to work with them. So you will take on different roles in that aspect of it too. So it's not just on the playground of humanity and only what it participates here, but other extensions of you that go beyond what is on this playground. Now, those connections, those agreements will also be partial to what you've agreed to support the changes that are taking place on the planet. So one of the things, when we're looking back at all of this, grab my trusty pen here. So we look at our current life. And the reason we need to look at our current life now, we've gone through different stages. As I said, I pointed out. And along the stages, we've made changes. And we're now at another part or stage of adjusting things so that we are more aligned with where we are today. Now, some of us have played certain roles and have kept ourselves not accessing the main role or the bigger role, whatever you want to call it. Now, all of that required preparation to come here, but now this bigger role, this stepping into yourself in a bigger way, is now come to the alignment, because not only are you more ready, or at least getting closer to that readiness, you're also engaging with others that are more ready. Now, when I say ready, it doesn't mean it's an absolute alignment. There is an alignment, but it may not look like that on the surface. That means that if you're connecting with certain people or individuals or whatever that may be, when that is occurring, it does not mean that they're open to receive whatever you have to share or accept you with open arms. However, your interaction being there is creating certain changes, even if there's resistance on their part. Now, of course, we get caught up with the ego saying, well, I got to make a difference and I have to, change people, fix people, heal people, do all of that stuff. Well, that's not the way it works. We have to allow each aspect of ourselves to go through the growing pains, through the modifications, through the changes, through the upgrades and whatever else that they haven't finished or other agreements that they may have at the time. So all of this is all coming together and dancing together. So we have to be open for that. We cannot give a tremendous amount of effort, power, and control over the fact that, okay, I got to go and do this and this and this. Because a lot of people get lost in the whole idea that I got to be doing something because my life is not meaningful. And we're going to look at that a little closer as we go along on this episode. But when we're looking at it, we're now going into our current life. So we're looking at our current life and say, okay, where am I now? What is really at a stage right now that I need to step into something grander? Grander in the sense if I'm ready for this or not. So for example, my current life, the role and how it fits in with our true nature. Now, we've all taken on this human experience. Of course, we've taken on a human body with a history. Yes, the bulk of the history, double the amount of the history, was in an unnatural state. It wasn't in the true design. It wasn't from the original creational point of what we talk about, this particular series of bodies that we're embodying. So we have played the role outside of our natural state. But now we're going into more of our natural state, because that's how we not only make changes within ourselves, but we're also creating a change on a collective state. And that doesn't mean just you. Everybody's going through to one degree or another. This is the thing, is that each one are at different stages and different places in their reality of creation and their role playing within the collective. Even if they're playing in a totally unconscious, totally low vibration state, they're still playing a role. Because even though we can look at it and see it meaningless because it's not impactful, that's holding a particular space to assist others to really step up their game, their state, and so forth. I know polarity is not a requirement. However, many of us are so conditioned, so programmed for polarity that we have to kind of bring the polarity in for us to be able to experience those changes. As you can see right now, the extreme intensity of polarity has greatly accentuated and has continued to even accentuate even further. What does that mean? It means that the separation, what looks like separation, the compartments of states of being are much more prevalent, and you can see it, you can feel it. But that also gives you the opportunity to feel the comfort level at different stages. Now, of course, you're going to visit, move back forth, but those are preparing you for pretty powerful transformations. Even going into an unconscious state, it actually will bring up some of the unconscious state programs that were established, adopted, utilized at different stages in your life. So when we're looking at our current life and how it fits in our true nature and the purpose of being here, it's the question people ask all the time. What's my purpose? What am I here for? What do I need to do? Look, the world is falling apart. Like, what do I need to do? And any of that stuff. And those are good questions to ask ourselves. However, really what gets to the core of this is really connecting with ourselves and discovering who we truly are from an aspect. And I'm not even talking about source, because that is part of it. Absolutely. You plug in that you are the sourceness. You have taken on this role. But who you are from a physical expression, from a human entity expression, and a soul expression combined, creating this identity, this, what do you call, essence, this consciousness, this beautiful dance that plays a very powerful role. So when we're connecting with that, right now specifically, it's so instrumental and so important in many, many ways for us to connect with ourselves so that we bring all those genuine aspects of ourselves to the surface, because it's the genuine aspect of your human existence. And we've already showed you what the human body is made up of. 12 different species. It has powerful connections. It carries a tremendous amount of codes. It's going through a complete transformation. It's harnessing more energy. It's tapping more in its original design. So that you want to bring that genuine part more to the surface. And the genuine part of your human entity, which is the multi-experienced level of yourself in human form. That means that your human entity has embodied many different physical forms over the last 15,000 years. Now, some of it could be less, but in many cases, it can go as far as back as the last 15,000 years. So it's embodied thousands of bodies. And each time it could have been different genders, it could have been different traditional upbringing through different parts of the world and so forth. And each time it's gained certain experiences. At the same time as the human entity has actually harnessed some refined aspect of itself that is chosen to carry through several of its lives to this current time. So many of us may have certain skills that are so well elaborate and adopted that go beyond what you would have learned on just this playground now. And it feels natural because that's the human entity that harnesses and refined those skill sets and so forth over the different incarnations and said, okay, we're going to use it in this incarnation. It doesn't mean they haven't used it in others, but we're going to use it in this incarnation because it's going to be somehow contributive, beneficial, or whatever we want to call it, for where we are right now. So this is the beauty of all of this as we're playing with any aspects of this dance that we're on. So, looking at all of that, the purpose of being here. Well, what is our purpose? Yes, we talked about it. We came here to play and so forth, but we came here to share. And this is why we choose now to harness all of these aspects of ourselves. Because now, if you're talking about the soul, what is the soul role? The soul is a multidimensional being. It's a multidimensional essence. It's a multidimensional experience aspect of sourceness, playing in a certain signature that has embodied, not only in human form, this could be the first time, could be multiple times, but it's also embodied different physicalities on different playgrounds, in different forms and so forth of different physical makeups on those different playgrounds at different dimensional consciousness levels and also at different section or sectional components of possibly different solar systems, different quadrants of the galaxy or different galaxies, sometimes in different universes and so forth. It all brings all of that in. Now, all of that's coming in and saying, okay, how do I contribute? Now, we have to look at it. Our main purpose at this point in time is to advance ourselves. which means advancing your body, advancing your human entity, advancing your soul while playing on planet Earth, which advances not only the collective, but the planet itself. Now, the planet advancement is also advancing our solar system, which is all the planets within our solar system, but it's also advancing our quadrant of the galaxy, which also advances the galaxy itself and the universe. Now, this is a dance back and forth because as much as we have come more online now, and we are hugely playing a role because we're advancing at a tremendous rate, more than what's been experienced before, the thing that we need to realize at this point in time, that while we're doing all of this, we're also receiving advancements from our different solar system. First of all, within our own planet, from our inner planet, but it's also from our whole solar system, our quadrant of the galaxy itself, and the universe. That has been growing, it has been expanding. Now, all of it is in sourceness, and all of these are stages of expressions and experiences and creations to express and experience itself. So all of this, there's a beautiful dance back and forth. So we are receiving, this is why we're receiving so much from the different species that are interconnected with us, which is deeply connected to our DNA, but we're also receiving a lot of these codes that are coming through at this point in time, not only from the universe, from our galaxy, from our quadrant of the galaxy, from our solar system, from our own inner planet, but the sun as also as a transmitter that reflects all of these codes and these frequencies and these spectrums of light. Now, all of it is source itself, but these spectrums are very catered for our particular purpose. Now, being a human body, being on a human planet, or what we call a human planet for the time being, it actually created a stage that is quite awesome in many, many ways that we have not given so much credence to while we're in the human form. Because what do we do? Well, we have taken on this artificial intelligence we call the ego, and we judge our experience, we judge our world, we judge ourselves, physical and every other aspects of ourselves. So while we're doing all of this judgment, and what we call that as judgment, then we lose the appreciation of who we are in this physical form, and then we get lost in the game of feeling that somehow you're worthless, you have nothing to contribute, that in fact that you've come here as a mistake, or you're just putting in time, which a lot of people tend to believe. I'm here to put in time because I got thrown here, and when I'm done, then I get to go. And we're afraid to go because we don't know what the unknown is. The ego is very good in scaring the shit out of us around that. But then at the same time, we also have such discomfort on this particular playground. So that gives you kind of an idea. So let's take a look at what else here. So many of us, if not almost every single person, to some degree, some much more than others, some are so intense and some are less intense. But all of us, to some degree or another, are feeling discontent. Discontent with ourselves, discontent with our playground, discontent with our playmates, discontent with all of the stuff that is playing out. And this discontent that we may be feeling is because it feels not aligned with who we are. It's like, can't I play a bigger game? Can't I play a better game, or whatever? That's just an idea. I'm just using that from an ego perspective, a way of how it's going to present to you. So in essence, saying there's got to be something more to this, because you look at your life and what happens. There is a certain level of excitement. You get to play with whatever you feel excited, but then after a while, that excitement starts to dwindle. That excitement starts to really lose any potentiality of what it could provide you for. Now, many of us have been excited about life, or different opportunities, or different relationships, different connections, and different opportunities to travel, do whatever. However, as we keep moving and getting excited with all of that stuff, we notice that it just continues to change. It continues to lose that capacity of what it once used to have. So what does that mean? What does all of that play out? Well, because we go from the disconnect, we go into stagnation too. Then we start to feel emptiness, in some cases depression. But then we ask ourselves the question, why is it more on the forefront now? Well, as you can see, things are changing very powerfully. For us to stay stagnant, to stay in that small world, and this is the thing. How many of us have heard over and over again, just achieve this and you'll be happy. Get to this point and then things are going to be smoother for you. You have to pay the price. You got to work hard. You got to do all of these things before you can get to a level of satisfaction. And then some get there, absolutely, and other times you don't. But what happens? You get there or you don't get there, you get to the point of dissatisfaction. You get to the point of stagnation. You get to the point where you are not feeling fulfilled. You feel emptiness. There's got to be more to this. The reason it's coming up much more powerfully at this time is because it's stimulating us in a very powerful way to move forward in a huge way at a much more rapid. Because what's happening? It's coming back online, our true nature. Our true nature is expansive. Our true nature is movement. Our true nature is new creatabilities or creatabilities. Accessing those capacities of creatabilities or creation or imagination and all of that. We have to understand that we are always changing. Every facet of us is changing. Our bodies are evolving. Our human entity is evolving. Our soul is evolving. Our whole layout of what we call a physical representation on playground is evolving. The planet is evolving. The solar system, the galaxy, the universe, all of it is evolving. And to stay in that evolution, it requires us to move forward. Now, many of us, what happens is we start to hold on to a way of life. Now, look at it this way. How many of you feel that in some way you've achieved a certain level of lifestyle or life layout, and then it doesn't feel it's fulfilling any longer? Why? Because there's a calling within you, a knowing within you, a stimulation within you, with all that's going on right now, to really push you to move forward. And this is where it comes into the fact of letting go of your world. It doesn't matter what we've represented as a world, but your world. When I say let it go your attachments to it. Now, that could mean that you're still doing what you're doing, or at least playing the role of wherever you're playing, but you're upgrading accordingly. So it comes back to the fact that it's stimulating us to discover ourselves, to access more of ourselves so that we can play, so we are not stagnant. Remember, we are in a field we call source, which is ultimate consciousness that continues to expand. As source, our true nature is expansion, growth, and creating grander and grander along the way, because that is our true nature, and that is reflective on all aspects of ourselves. It's reflective in our soul, our human entity, our physicality, our playground, our solar system, galaxy, universe, and every aspect of existence. This is why each of the creations that we get involved evolve, or expand, or become even grander than the next. If you look at the cycle of the start of creation as source, it started off with more basic limited creations, and it gave its opportunities to expand and to include more consciousness. Source itself is not finite. It's not there and you're going backwards to rebuild up to it. No, it is, yes, it may have reduced its access to be able to create realities and not get lost in its sourceness, but at the same time, as it's doing that, it's upgrading sourceness. Source, who you are, exactly that, is also upgrading. So the nature of that is always movement, expanding, growing, self-discovering, plugging in whatever is going on. Right now we're being hugely stimulated to bring more of that online, and many of us have been starting to experience and feel that within ourselves, where we are bringing more of ourselves, because playing just a role is not as satisfying as it used to be. It doesn't fulfill to the same degree it used to be. Now, things used to move a lot slower, so we gave ourselves the opportunity to get lost in a role for a longer period of time, to give us time to really get saturated and get to the point of discomfort, which is not a negative thing. Discomfort kind of is an indicator for us to move forward or to move next to the next level. So in all of that that is playing out, that level of discomfort is, okay, it's time to move again. I mean, all of us have had different relationships, different connections, friendships, different roles that you've played out, different work, different friendships or whatever it is. And then you feel a point of discontent, or you feel in a sense that it's time to move on. And what you're doing is you're just moving on to other connections, other opportunities, other capacities. But this moving on that we're talking about now is a moving on with you, even more grander than, just the connections. Yes, of course it's going to involve the connections, the playmates, and whatever else that we have given power to and held on to as a reference point. So that's going to upgrade too. So all of this is upgrading at this time in a very powerful way, because we have chosen, all of us, to some degree or another, to be here right now. Doesn't matter how long you've already been here. Some are new, some have been here a long time. Some of you have reincarnated over and over again from different aspects of it and are here again. And some are here only the first time, but all of us have come here because not only did we want to be part of this really rapid ride that we're on through this powerful transformation, but we came here to play an active role. So one way or another, you are carrying a skill set from understanding the human experience, from understanding the human design as even the human entity, but also understanding it as the soul that has come in. Now, of course, all of this working together is contributing in making changes to this playground. So all of us, to one degree or another, have chosen to participate, to be part of, not only from an experiencing component of experiencing what is going on and all the changes that are taking place, but to participate. Not only participate, contribute. Contribute in a huge way or less of a huge way. But the thing is, we are here, even if we're just holding a specific energy, even if you're just observing and holding a space for others around you, which are all other aspects of yourself that are taking huge leaps in their life. So that's what we're looking at. So the reason we're feeling the disconnect, stagnation and emptiness, and even depression at this point in time, is because it's time to move on. And if it needs that intensity to really get us moving, then that's what the thing is. Now, a lot of people are feeling dissatisfied with their life. Well, yeah, you can look at it and say, well, my life didn't play out as I imagined. But we can talk about what that means, because a lot of imagination is a program. Like we got programmed that life needs to look this way, or we need to experience this way, or something of that nature. That does not mean that that was of your own concoction, of your own imagination. Maybe the experience itself, yes, feeling that disconnect or whatever it is, absolutely, that could have been easily plugged in, of course, and you are experiencing it. But it's the other part. It's the part that we are coming into, you're looking at it and saying, okay, my life is not. Well, let's clarify that. So let's look at even the timeline at this point in time. You're here. Okay? You're right here right now. And you're saying, well, you know something? I had a lot of different aspirations, ideas, and so forth. And now I got to go in the mode of making up for the lost time. Well, did you really lose time? Remember, each of these things that you put into place were opportunities. The choices you made in these stages in your life, one way or another enhanced you. One way or another played a powerful role for you. One way or another has prepared you for where you are. Now, some of this stuff was required for you to have the skill set, even if it looked the opposite, to play the active role that you came to play now, or at least what you're stepping into now in a more powerful way. So the thing is, we got to look at this and say, well, you know something? This was perfect. This was perfect up to this point in time. And it's going to be perfect along the way. However, what we're looking at now, moving forward, day by day, moment by moment, hour by hour, whatever you want to call it, each stages of our life, we're now bringing in that part. So you're saying, okay, I'm now ready to step things up. And I'm going to plug in whatever I need along the way as I need it. But it's not looking at just you and say what I need personally. Well, there's a misnomer around that because, yes, it's about you, but it's other aspects of you too. And it's also, the planet itself is an aspect of you. The solar system, the galaxy, the universe, everything is an aspect of you because there's nothing outside of you, but you are source. So if you look at it all back to all of that, it's still all part of you. So here you are, and now you're saying, okay, great. This was all preparation. I played a huge, powerful role there. And now it's time for me to step it up. So what am I going to do? You're going to start connecting with yourself. You're much more powerful. And you're going to look at it and say, okay, what do I feel within my very core of myself, without creating any judgment around it or anything of that nature, to alter or make changes or even tweak. And that could start with just your thought patterns, observing your thoughts. What am I thinking of all the time? What am I reflecting on all the time? What are my stories coming up all the time? You know, and then choosing to say, okay, those are not of service. Not that any of it is wrong, but it doesn't serve you where you are now, and start to shift those patterns within yourself, your thought forms and whatever else. Don't wrestle with it, but just observe it and say, oh, okay, great. I'm focusing on an older version of myself, because we have a tendency to always put the attention on something that we played out in the past. Go ahead.
Okay, Jane is sharing. Just a comment.
You're not on, are you?
Not on?
Check your mic. Is it lit up?
Yeah, it's lit up. It's
Oh, hold on.
Sure. Want to try again?
Okay, try again.
Okay.
Just talk a little closer. Maybe it's not picking up.
Okay. Okay, Jane has a comment. Hopefully people can hear me okay.
It seems like it's not.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay.
I think so. In the last few weeks, looking at my current life, everything is breaking down just as all systems in the outward are falling apart. While I know that this is not my true self, it is a great challenge to be in joy and bring forth my divinity. It seems that this dance is back and forth movement. It is a great challenge knowing that we are all grander and more powerful. Very frustrating to see the higher aspect of this game.
Okay. Well, the thing is, the breaking down that's happening right now is, again, it's time for you to let go of those parts that are breaking down. And it's really about looking at it and saying, okay, am I ready just to let those things fall apart, let those things go, let go? Because you're going to create experiences for your own higher purpose. This higher purpose that I am referring to is the purpose within yourself of how do I actually use this opportunity, or what can I plug in to make changes within myself. Certain things we've given a lot of power to, certain things that we may have somehow made such high value in whatever's playing out that we have a difficult time letting it go. So it starts to crumble. Now, when that starts to fall apart, it actually also creates openings for us to look at something different. How many times have all of us had things fall apart, or things break down or leave or whatever it is in our lives, and then later on realizing that it was necessary and something even grander or better or whatever it is. And not that I want to say one's better than the other, but something that is more aligned with you, for you, coming together. Now, the frustrational component of all of this would be the ego judging it and being upset, or at least projecting the idea, projecting the thought forms and the emotional charge around that your world is falling apart. When you start connecting with yourself and you're focusing in your heart, you're bringing in, like I've talked about in another episode, you call in your soul and you say, okay, soul, fully embody me. Now, I ask you to fully embody, activate the highest home frequency that you have to offer, that my body can take or handle or can utilize at this point in time. And then you access yourself and say, I choose to activate the highest version of myself in form. And you can also access the other part and say, listen, I now activate within myself the highest source essence that my body can utilize, my mind can utilize. And then in that state, you can now look at it. So you choose, and you can close your eyes when you're doing all of this, as long as you're in a place where you're not, your attention is not required. And when you're doing that, you can now connect with yourself and look at whatever's playing out in your life, observing those parts, and see if there's any attachments to it or that there's a certain meaning. Because many of us have built a life stream. And I've seen this so many times, and I've dealt with so many times in doing sessions and so forth, where they put a lot of energy, time in a career, in a relationship, or in something of that nature, and put so much effort and time into it, and then because it's falling apart, it feels like they're losing out, and they're losing a part of themselves because they had put so much time in it. But we have to understand, whatever time we put into it, even if you felt that you got lost in the game or lost in somebody else's game, if you want to call it that, because there's no such thing as somebody else's game, but it looks that way because as long as we connect with them, it becomes part of our game too, even though we choose to put importance in their game versus our game, it's still part of your game too, because you're chosen to do so. But when you see all of that playing out, you again, even if you had that experience, you're okay with it. You let it flow, because the thing is, we're not here to make life difficult. That was a program, that was a story that we adopted, that life has to be difficult. We have to fight, we have to sacrifice, we have to have pain before we can have gain. Well, the thing is, look at it this way. Let's take an example of a relationship. If a relationship requires a tremendous amount of work, in the sense where I got to do this and do that, let go of that, and whatever it is, I need to play this particular role a certain way for me to keep this relationship, then look at how much energy and how much giving yourself away is required to do so. Now, that does not mean you don't play the particular role, but you allow yourself to be you. You're still number one. So in fact, and I'm not talking about egotistical version of number one. Number one meaning, okay, how do I want to express and experience myself in this relationship? Like if you want to do something because you love to do so and you know that your partner loves it. You're doing it because you want to share that. You want to provide that and see the experience in this other person, rather with the energy, I need to do this or else they're not going to be happy with me. If I don't do this, they're not going to be wanting to be with me, or something of that nature. Or the fact that I am expected of this for me to hold on to this, or afraid that you may lose it, because that sucks a lot of energy from you. It sucks a lot of creativity from you. When I say suck, meaning that you reduce your access point to that, and you're not allowing yourself to be yourself. Many people have a difficult time bringing their highest aspects of themselves, or the highest version of themselves, or bringing their true essence of themselves in a relationship, because they are afraid to lose the relationship. And then what happens is you start playing a life that becomes more and more disaligned. Now, at first it may seem fine because you want a certain outcome and you're playing that game and so forth, but to maintain that, it becomes very draining and so much on alignment that you're going to go into discontent, you're going to go into staleness, you're going to go into dissatisfaction and sometimes depression or whatever, because it's not going to feel aligned for you. So the thing is, it's about being fully yourself, sharing yourself with that level of love that you are, and let everything move around you. You know, I've seen people lose everything and end up on the street. I'm not saying anybody has to have that experience, but there are opportunities that takes place. And then they go through that, and there's a complete adjustment that occurs, a series of experiences that brings another aspect of themselves and changes them in a very powerful way. Sometimes that also, that role is taken on because it's part of an agreement, and playing that role affects other people in your life stream. That could be from family to whatever. And it's not about making a mistake, it's about playing a particular role, experiencing what you need to experience, and you let it be. So, because every experience enhances us one way or another. Every single experience supports us in a grander aspect. So it's really about letting that flow through us. And if it's falling apart, let it fall apart. If it's coming apart from the seams, or it's no longer manageable, or no longer able to be part of your experience, you let it flow, you let it go, and so forth. And again, the frustration would be only the ego coming into play. So at that point in time, you say, hey, ego, you know, I understand that you want to play out this role of frustration, but I'm not going to support it at this point. I'm going to look at it a bigger picture. So you do the process I mentioned to you a few minutes ago around, you know, bringing your soul, your human entity, the highest version of yourself, and so forth. And you will notice that that will create a shift, and you can start making adjustments accordingly. Now, the adjustments are part of your own doing. Yes, it can come from your soul. Yes, it, of course, is not going to be exclusively from your soul. It's going to be in agreement with your human entity and also your body, so that everything is in alignment and so forth. Now, a lot of times the soul may be the heavier instigator, but other times it's the other way around, where it could be your human entity, it could be your body, it could be whatever, you know, but normally there's an agreement around all of that. Did I clarify that? Good enough? Okay, so let's see what else we get to play with. How much of what we are here to experience and contribute to the playground and other aspects of ourselves are we actively partaking? Well, it's never going to be 0%. Impossible. Is it 100%? Well, that is highly doable, and most likely you might even want to achieve that. And that's really what's playing out for you right now. It's bringing you to the different levels of it. This is why we're feeling a lot of the things that we're feeling, because we may not be partaking in all that is changing to the degree that we are capable of, to the degree that we've agreed to do so, to the degree that we are somehow going to benefit in a very powerful way. All of these things are part and parcel of all of this. So in essence, when you're looking at this, how it's playing out, you say, okay, I've come here to contribute. Yes, I came to increase my skill sets, my understanding, accessing my capabilities in a very powerful way. Yes, I've chosen to do all of that. I have chosen to play every part of that up to this point in time. But now I'm stepping it up. So, like I said, you're not going to be able to start off at zero, because no matter what, you're going to be somewhere here, regardless how asleep you may think you are. You could be paying 30% of your role. But, if you look at it, that could be as much as 100%, because the other 70% that you have there was in your own preparation and gaining experience and so forth. So again, it's always that. But now it's about stepping into and contributing in a very powerful way as an expression, as an experiencer, as a creator, and that using your creation or your capability of creating, your imagination, in a powerful way. So when you're looking at it, the question is, how actively am I partaking? Well, we all are to some degree. How much more would be the question. How much more do I want to partake? Well, you're going to feel it within yourself. You're going to see, like the example that came up, or the world's falling apart. That's a part of you saying, I want to partake in a bigger way, and I'm going to need to let go of all the stuff that slows me down, or at least I've given so much power to. Now, to go back to that, that does not mean you have to let go or lose things. It's about the let go of the meaning, the attachments to it, and so forth in most cases. But that does not mean that you will not lose certain things, because it's time to go. And that's how it all works. So it's there to support you. So the question is, how much are you contributing to our playground? Well, a lot of it will be able to tell you how much you are seeing, expressing, feeling of yourself that is an upgrade to what is being experienced right now in the playground. If you look at the world right now, it looks quite chaotic. It looks not only stagnant in some ways, even though the stagnation has shifted to a certain degree, not totally by any means, a portion of it, but you're looking at the reflection of an old world. So the thing is, you're partaking by bringing this new world through you. That new world is already in you. That new world wants to be expressed through you. How does that start? That starts by letting go of your old world, your lower, older versions of yourself, and allowing that newer version, which we've been talking about. Allow that to come into play, and then use your imagination to see the world as it's coming through you. And each one of us will have a variance of it, but that variance is what creates. So everybody's going to be like a color of a pencil or a crayon or something of that nature that is coloring the earth and giving it life to a certain degree. So our expression, our way of using our creativity will do so. Now, of course, that's going to reflect in your personal how you feel in your embodiment as a physical form, as a being that you are in form. You're going to feel it in wherever environment that you're in. Could be your home, apartment, whatever, wherever, streets, you name it. You're going to feel it. You're also going to start noticing it within your immediate family. You're going to start noticing it with your extended different families. You're going to notice it through all the different playmates of friendships and other things that are in your life. You're going to notice with the sentient beings, the connections to the different animal kingdoms and so forth. You're going to notice it with your work and your other endeavors or whatever. You're going to start noticing all of those things start to change. Now, by connecting with yourself, you're accessing that higher aspect of yourself. And as you're doing so, as more of that is coming to you, through you, whatever you want to call it, you become a more powerful contributor. Now, we're always contributing. Either we're contributing to maintain a certain level of the old world and a percentage of the new world, or we start to shift more and more to represent the new world because it's coming through you. We talk about light codes coming through, certain frequencies, bursts that we're having in the different energy patterns coming from the planet, from the sun, you know, the different, what do you call it, streaming that we're getting from different quadrants of our galaxy and so forth that are sharing with us in a very powerful way. Those things are coming through us to enhance us so that we are able to express it in the most updated version, because we're always updating anyways. There's no way you can never continue to update, because you're going to continue to update. You're not going to reach full update state and then be able to express it in stages. Yes, you may get, say you get 10 different codes to start off with, different codes, and spectrums and frequencies and so forth. Frequencies and so forth. So you may get 10 different spectrums of it, or codes, or whatever it is. Yes, you may only start using 1 or 2. Say you start using 2, and then it becomes 4, and so forth, until you start using up to 10, and you get some more. You're not going to get 1,000 of them all at once, because you can't always totally utilize it. Now, we have to understand, these 10 codes are the most upgraded. If I give you 100 codes, for example, so you received 100 codes, and if you can't use it right away, and just to get to use the first 10 will take you a month or 2 or 3, whatever it may be, the other 90 codes, for example, will become stale dated in a sense. Remember, things are moving very, 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 very quickly. So this is why you only get chunks at a time. Not only because the body can't take it all and utilize all of it, but it wants to keep upgrading the codes. Now, the first 10 you started using will upgrade also. But the thing is, not to download so many different codes and then only use a small portion over a period of time. It just basically gives you what you can use in the next phase of time. And then as you're, say, activating, you started off with the 2, you go to the 4, but by the time you get to 5, it may need an upgrade, so it's going to be upgraded. Okay? 5 will be upgraded, then 6, and 7, and so forth. So it keeps it current, but it's not going to extend it that far, because a lot of these codes may not even be required at some point, if it's down the road, because new designs will come into place. Remember, we are redesigning everything. We're also test piloting everything. We're creating simulations. We do this all the time ourselves. We try something out and we get a feedback and decide and so forth. As long as the ego is not involved, we can just be the observer and see how it feels and how it plays out and so forth, and say, you know, we can tweak it. Oh yeah, I can do this, or I can do that, whatever that may be. And that's how it works when we're talking about our true essence of what the planet has to represent, what we represent as ourselves, and our source essence of ourselves. So there's constantly a spread, a laying out of experience, a laying out of the playground. Because the thing is, the playground's upgrading. So that gets to unfold. And this is as it is unfolding, it's being experienced and adjusted accordingly at the same time. Because it depends on how many aspects of ourselves get on board really quickly, and we can now step it up, go even further than we were able to before, and then maybe not. So these things all adjust accordingly. That's the beauty of the design. So we all are constantly, being experiencing our step into becoming actively partaking. And like I said in the beginning, even if you're playing a darker, denser, unconscious, what we call sleep state or something of that nature, that still supports in one way or another. Of course, once that's done and that requirement's not there, then the choice is, do I upgrade? Do I step things up? Do I start using other aspects of myself? Or do I choose to leave because I'm done? That's the beauty of it. You get to choose. It's free. It's a dance. It's a play. And it's awesome on every level. Okay. The effects of programming. So we're looking at it and say, what are the effects of programming? This is a good one. Because as I started talking about it earlier, is that our imagination, our creativity, our wants and dislikes and likes and whatever else, what we adopt as an idea of a preference, yeah, it doesn't matter what it is, everything is an experience. So everything is perfect to a certain degree for a certain timeline or a certain sequence of experiences. However, a lot of us, what's happened is because we've been programmed. So when you really look at it, let's take a closer look at it. What does programming mean? Well, here you are as a child. You're coming into the world, okay? You have a basic essential of what it means to be in a physical form. Because, your body's been in physical forms before. It has gone through the different stages. So it's going to carry a certain level of skill set, knowing and so forth of what it means to be a form. Now, of course, it started in baby state at that time. That's great. So it's going to have a base fundamental. It's going to use some of the fundamentals from mom and dad as the contributors of the codes and whatever else. But then you also are bringing in certain aspects of the human entity that has had many, many lives. And that plugs into it too, creating a baseline to start off with. And of course, the soul comes in and brings certain baseline. However, the whole managing of the game of life now becomes open platform because we're designed to take on programs. You were going to say something?
Question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Sue has a question. I had believed that I had transmuted all old energy patterns, but a lot of physical body pain has recently manifested. Is this a natural phenomenon when there is an expansion of consciousness?
Yes, because an expansion of consciousness also increases your vibration. So you may have emotional charges, emotional programming, and so forth that may still be in the body in a way that is expressing itself. And the reason it's expressing itself, it's just bringing up to the surface so that you can feel whatever comes up. So pay attention to whatever comes up for you when you're feeling those physical symptoms coming up. You may feel frustration, you may feel this, you may feel that. It may even bring back old memories of how all of that came about, or an older version of you and so forth. Well, just be with it, accept it, love it, and so forth, and allow it just to move through you. Because if you're going to judge it, resist it, or feel that you're not making progress or anything of that nature, or you need to be afraid of whatever you're experiencing, then it just kind of slows down the process a lot more. So you don't want to be slowing it down if you can help it. So at this point in time is just allow those to come through because it is part of the process that's going through. But pay attention because it's not only showing up just to move through you, it's also showing possibly something else that be linked into that. Sometimes emotions are charged, emotional charges are locked into that, and that you may have to go through the experiencing of the emotion. So allow yourself to be present with whatever you're feeling emotionally when those, say, intense or what you can call physical ailments or discomforts or sensations come up. So a lot of times, even having something very intense may bring up a lot of opportunities to clear out some of the older stuff that we may not have been accessing. I've experienced that myself on so many levels now. Recently with the physical stuff going on and bringing stuff that First of all, I didn't even realize they were there. Second of all, to some degree, I felt that it was all taken care of many, many, many years ago, if not several decades ago. However, a lot of the older stuff from childhood that was kind of stored and not realized it was even stored, because I recall the experiences and memories and whatever else, and those other versions of myself that was involved in that, and the agreements that were involved with that, but then it really never got the chance to be expressed and experienced in its full state. So you're going to have certain things as the energies move through. Go ahead.
Okay, it's another question from Annie. Are any of the incoming codes designed specifically to help us release the old programs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every single one basically has that encoded in there, because the codes come in giving you new codes, but at the same time it has kind of an antivirus sort of thing. I don't want to call it that. That's not the right word. But a back-end code to kind of purge it. For example, in computer world, in computer terms, when you do an update on your software, it needs to get rid of the old one that's there. So basically at that point in time, it actually erases or clears out any of the old codes. Now, of course, in the human expression, when we're doing that, it's also facilitating us to bring stuff forward. But the thing is, we bring things into our lives for a very powerful purpose. And the things we bring in our lives gives us the opportunity to kind of have certain experiences. But at the same time, if there's still unfinished business in the sense where you didn't gain all the access out of it, then we'll give ourselves the opportunity to be able to do so. So this is the thing that we provide ourselves along the way. So yes, the codes do carry both. It carries the codes to help clear it out. Now, a lot of times the new download has to purge a lot of the old stuff, and the new ones can't be totally activated until the old goes out. So you're going to feel a lot of the old stuff that's coming to the surface to give us the opportunity. So, as I was saying, we go through the programming aspect of our life because we want to experience what others are experiencing. So what happens? We get programmed. We get programmed by our environment, our culture, our exposure, our family dynamics, the conversations, the engagements, and everything else that we experience with family. We start to see all of that that plays out within ourselves. So we are getting programmed. And what does that program meaning? That you're starting to look at it and say, oh, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable being a human. This is right, this is wrong. Even though that is not quite the case, but we adopt that whole idea that is the case. So we're being programmed and conditioned to think a certain way, to feel a certain way, to respond a certain way, and what to create. Because many of us create or buy into the idea that life looks this way, that it needs to be this way. I need to follow my parents' footsteps, or I need to follow other people's footsteps, or that if I don't follow the footsteps, I'm not going to be, effective, successful, or anything of those natures. So then we start to adopt those parts of us that are coming through. And when it comes through at this point in time, we end up acknowledging and seeing that, oh, I've now adopted these ideas, and you start to create your reality around that. So a lot of times what happens, and then of course we go to school and we get programmed on a way of life. We get programmed and conditioned to believe certain things, to give power to certain things, to use our imagination, creativity a certain way, to make certain things taboo in the sense of, you can't use your imagination in that way, get into the real world, or whatever that may be. We're going to also learn from the media, meaning what we see as shows, movies, and so forth. Because you look at it, it's all reflective of a way of life. And it also stimulates certain emotions, and it puts in ourselves ideas that if you achieve this, then you are successful. If you achieve this, then you will be happy. If you achieve this. So what happens is our creative ability kind of reflects our environment, rather than us being that essence of ourselves and expressing out. Now, of course, that's reversing at this point in time, so that we start using our own inner guidance capacities to be able to create a reality externally. So, a lot of us don't realize how much we are programmed. Because the thing is, how many times do we look at ourselves and we feel that the world around us and society around us or family around us or whoever it is the way it is, and that we need to work with what's around us. That served us to some degree for quite a period of time. However, the thing that comes up right now is that as much as all of that was what it was, is that for us to go into this new state of creation, we start to purge all of that part. Whatever that world is, because, you know, how can you create a new when you use the old as a reference point, as the building block, and so forth? Now, you don't say, well, I'm going to scrap everything, which at some point you will, but at the same time, you're going to say, okay, that was a great experience. I had a beautiful opportunity to play whatever I needed to play, but now how do I shape my reality? Each one of us has a reality built within ourselves that is constantly upgrading, changing, modifying, and so forth to give us the opportunity to play out that role. So the call right now from ourselves, from the different aspects of ourselves, has been and will be and continue to be for all of us at this point in time, to really step into that essence of yourself as that creator, so that you are projecting the highest aspect of you. And that highest aspect of you is part of the building blocks of creating a new, transformed, upgraded human experience and playground we call the world. Of course, all of this accesses not only higher consciousness, but accesses higher vibrations and frequency. With that, flexibility opens up. No more attachments to things. It's about fluidity. But at the same time, things get created and discreated a lot quicker. You're not going to linger in your creation. You're going to create a lot quicker. You're going to experience, appreciate, utilize everything that you create a lot quicker. And you are going to be much more open to discreate very quickly also. Because anything you create serves you of that moment or that sequence of moments. But eventually it becomes stale. It becomes stagnant. It's no longer in alignment because we are, in our natural state, constant, upgradable creators. And we're always creating. That is our nature. And we're bringing that into the dance of life, which now is much more powerful than ever before because we didn't utilize it to the same degree as we do now. So when we start looking at it, we're going through a deprogramming process. Because the more we deprogram ourselves, and there's no loss in whatever you adopted as a program. Because a lot of times what happens, people say, well, you know, I invested my whole life in learning this way of life, and now I got to let it go. Well, yes and no, because in a sense, when you're looking at it, you say, well, you've already utilized it along the way. The thing is, if you can keep holding on it, which is the option you want to have, or you have that option, let's call it that, you have that option, but then also understand by having that option, you're also restricting the potentiality that you're capable of, the potentiality of playing a more powerful role in redesigning. How many of us say, I want to change the world really quickly, let's get on the bandwagon, let's do whatever it takes? Well, there you go, you're being laid out what it takes. It takes us to be able to really move forward and access that higher aspect of us and deprogram our defaults, deprogram our automatic responses, deprogram our emotional charges, deprogram our operating system in many, many levels that we've adopted. But we're also purging, we're also letting go, we're also clearing out older versions of ourselves, older adopted ideas, perceptions, belief systems, and so forth that we've adopted along the way, older ways of experiencing life. Because, you know, people say, well, is this what human life is about? Well, human life is quite flexible. Is it from the original design? No, but it is going more into that original design. However, whatever we created, doesn't matter how much polarity was involved, how much, you know, unconsciousness was involved, it was still part of the human experience. It became part of the human experience. Yes, not the true natural design, but it gave us still what we had the opportunity to experience up to now. But now, of course, you're going to want to upgrade it. You're going to step into that higher state and bringing more and more of yourself into the mix. Okay. Just wondering if I got these backwards. Let's do this one first. Okay, so what are the opportunities we have now, and how will it not only impact our lives, but the lives of many, the collective, and ultimately our world? Well, many of us are here with this opportunity that we've finally, together, collectively, put together, worked towards, did our part, whatever that may have been, doesn't matter what stage of it, to bring us to this point where we are actively involved in the whole redesign. And not only are we involved in the redesign, we're involved in the different stages of redesigning. But we're not only redesigning it, we're also experiencing the different stages of design. It's not outside of us. We're bringing all parts of that. So you create something, you experience it. By doing so, you get to access a higher aspect of yourself. You access something that you weren't able to access, so that your creation, the next stage of it, actually enhances even further. So there's tremendous amount of opportunities that we've provided ourselves right now. Now look at it, like the example that was it. Your world is falling apart. Well, it's not only our world falling apart, the whole world is falling apart. Well, is it falling apart? It's falling away. And what's falling away? The old way, the old version that we used. So it's like the playground is nurturing itself to upgrade itself. So that means that we need to let go of all the systems. And I've talked about this many, many, many times. Our world, very much so, is still very reflective of our inverted matrix, which is no longer applicable, no longer active, but that still does not mean we're out of it, because all of our systems, all of our way of life, even the programming you accepted, and even the programming that's still being projected at this time, everything that the media is sharing, everything that everybody's still playing and trying to hold on to, was created under the inverted matrix, where everything was backwards, where consciousness and separation were very separate. Well, separation separated us from our essence of sourceness. So the inverted matrix created a world we call the inverted 3D, which we are purging. And these are older versions of ourselves. Older versions of ourselves. So we have older versions of ourselves. We're purging all the stuff that was created within it. But some of us actually went into the 2D, which is, a deeper level of unconsciousness. So all of that is part of the purging that's going on. If you are very much disconnected, where just the world around you exists and anything outside of that world does not even comprehend in you, knowing that there's something even more than that, and even if you knew that there was a little bit of some more or something of that nature, none of it is utilized as part of your experience, and you just go with what's around you, then that's what you're doing. You're living basically in the 2D version. And of course, this is going to be the inverted 3D. You're going to see everything backwards anyways, and you start to create experiences in that in the inverted measure. So that's all of that is being, purged from us. And that's why I'm saying that all of this stuff is going through. So the opportunity we have now is an accelerated version of putting all that out, but also that in fact that bringing the higher aspect of ourselves, which is the more conscious yourself. So what we're doing is we're bringing in the organic organic 3D and 5D state of consciousness on the various platforms. And we can move from one platform to another, which is still on planet Earth. But you'll notice sometimes, depending on the state that you're in, you experience, you may be experiencing some of this, in some cases a lot of this. Other times you're going to be more focused on your organic 3D and sometimes on the 5D. And the world around you changes. The people, the way they interact with you will change. Sometimes it may look subtle, but there's a change. The energy they carry, the energy, the communication, the experience, and whatever else. Because you will shift from one platform to another based on what is necessary for you to advance, to grow forward in a very powerful way. So the opportunity that we've given ourselves right now, for many of us that are participating, is to bring the higher aspect of ourselves into embodiment, full embodiment in a human form, as a human expression, and then to start living it ourselves and sharing it. And when I say sharing it, is being that way with others. And then when somebody is inquiring or open to it, then you could share to the degree that they're open, and that's it, with no expectations or anything of that nature, because that can be binding in itself, and you don't want to be in a position where you lock yourself up. So that's the opportunity we've given ourselves. And many of us have given ourselves the opportunity to get ready up to this point in time by going through all the different experiences, and to give us the opportunity to kind of purge. Because you have to understand, every experience that you have, everything that you're feeling, everything that you're going through, and all the changes you accept or experience within yourself, it is enhancing, first of all, the body and all the connected sentient beings, including planet Earth. But the bodies are upgrading all bodies. Whatever you experience within the body is either mimicking, reflecting, and so forth what other bodies are experiencing, so that you help go through it and purge it out. And sometimes you're receiving feedback from that. That's why sometimes the intensity is much more than it used to be. But as you go through it, as you make changes by experiencing it very differently, as we said earlier, observing it, allowing those emotions to come through, you're actually altering that code, that information through the body that is shared throughout all the other bodies that are on the planet, which are all other aspects of yourself. So other aspects of your expression, but it doesn't stop there. It's not only the bodies, but all the sentient beings that are interconnected with the bodies. So we're talking all animal kingdoms, insect world, reptilian world, oceanic world, the birds, and so forth. All of it kind of also takes on a certain reflection of that and starts to alter accordingly, at least providing them the opportunity to do so. The other part that is, whatever you're experiencing, learning, and shifting within yourself is also upgrading your human entity. And your human entity is connected to the collective human entity and every human entity that is out there. So what you're experiencing, you're sharing. What others are experiencing, you may be receiving, depending on to the degree that you've made agreement to do so. And then you will experience it and upgrade. And that's the same thing. And that occurs also with the souls, because you're not only advancing the souls, but you're advancing other levels of the soul. But it doesn't even stop there, because your DNA is active too. So whatever you're experiencing, you're also feeding back to all the contributor beings at that point in time as clusters, and also being open yourself to receive. Go ahead.
Okay, and he's asking, aren't people who are embracing density and the inverted matrix also shaping our new world? Is their creative potential less than that of those who are actively reaching for organic 3D and 5D?
Well, of course, the organic 3D and organic 5D, your higher state of consciousness, supersedes anything of the older world. This is why the world is still changing. Yes, of course, we're getting some assistance, but it's still changing, because regardless of how many are in the old state, a lower vibration, polarized state, and so forth. Now, the other thing is too, many of them are still playing those roles, because yeah, they may not be ready to move forward, but in essence, it's allowing many of us to refine, to become much more powerful. Because if you have some form of resistance around you, or feeling that polarity part that's around you, then we're going to push a little harder to really refine ourselves. And this is where the self-grounding comes in. Because this is huge when it comes to self-grounding. And what does that self-grounding represent? Well, we've all heard about grounding. You know, grounding to Gaia, the planet, nature, whatever it is, which is all great. But at the same time, self-grounding is connecting to yourself, the highest essence of your human expression, highest self of your human entity, highest expression of your human soul, or in this case, soul, multidimensional soul. So when you're grounding yourself, you're grounding to you, the very core essence, the sourceness within yourself. What that does is actually creates that part of you to expand and to become much more powerful. You're like people say, you're connecting to your light. You're not depending on other lights. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't connect with Gaia, but you're not creating an alliance or a reliance, that's the word. A reliance with Gaia. You're not even reliance with anything, but you are now accessing that light, that source codes within yourself, that very essence of yourself. And that becomes your own guidance system, your own light. So you're grounding within yourself. And this has become more powerful than ever before, because before we had more of a challenge to ground to ourselves. We were relying on grounding with Gaia, because we were going through certain stages where we didn't have as much access because of all the other stuff that was playing out at the time. But that's changed. That has changed. So I'm not saying everybody's at that stage right now, but many, many, many more are, and you can feel it. So yes, you can ground. If you want to take the stages, you can say, well, I'm going to go ground with Gaia. Say, okay, I'm going to go and connect with Gaia, and I'm going to go ground with Gaia. Gaia grounding. But after you've done so, you can choose to ground to yourself. Now, if you're already grounded with Gaia lots of times, and you don't need to go and do that to play with all of this, then you ground yourself. You just connect with yourself. That's what you're doing. You're connecting with yourself. And the highest aspects of yourself will express through you, will come to light when you're grounding to it. So sometimes we may have to quieten the mind, so we may go into a meditation or something of that nature, but in fact, you just ground yourself. So it doesn't matter what the chaos around you or what's playing out around you. When you're grounded with yourself, you become rock solid in your own field of energy, in your own higher aspect of that sourceness within yourself. So you're not going for the roller coaster ride to the same degree. You're not going to be tossed around by the waves. You're going to be like in the eye of the storm, per se. But the thing is, you're not relying on the storm to hold that space of the eye. You are the eye. You are the center, and the storms are all around you. And while you're holding that space within yourself, you're also creating changes not only in yourself, but you're also altering the storm. You're minimizing its intensities and so forth, and then eventually that you're starting to change it more and more, so the storm is not easily fired up, and it's no longer has the same impact, not only with you, but others around you, and also the collective per se. So that's all playing out right now. Let's put that up there. Let's take some of this out. So, the next thing. There's so much taking place that can make things seem out of control. I mean, unless you're hiding under a rock, I mean, there's so much going on right now. And, in some countries, there's an election coming up and the insanity on that. And I'm going to cover in one of the episodes a little bit more about that, because we want to have a deeper understanding how it can or cannot affect us in any way, shape, or form, whatever's playing out. And regardless of which direction it goes, there's a backup plan that we've collectively put together, that if it goes one way, it moves one direction. If it goes another way, it moves in the other direction, but the direction has a similar outcome. It just has a different sequences of experiences that's in there. So there's so much taking place, and it seems out of control. However, that is what is needed to stimulate real change based on our current state of being. Well, how many of us have gotten comfortable with our world, got comfortable with the old way of life? Yeah, okay, like I started talking earlier in this episode where, you're going to feel that uncomfortableness and all of that stuff that's going on, and we've chosen to make changes. However, on a collective scale, sometimes you need to be shaken up, because in fact we're holding on to the dear world. Like, for example, even the whole idea of this thing that's happening with the elections and whatever else that's playing out. When we really look at it, when we look at what's going on, we are rooting for one side or another. Yeah, of course, each one has a different sequence of experience. However, both are projecting different worlds. One, it's going to, make us more restrictive. The other one is a little less restrictive, but that one is still reflective of the old world, reflective of what we are purging from ourselves, what we are purging from the playground altogether. And I'm going to talk about those things in a different episode, where we're, the amount of power we've given to the idea that we have to have a certain educational system, medical system, financial system. We need to have jobs. We need to have an economy, that we need to have all of this stuff, which, all part and parcel is a great little dance, a great part of the experience, blah, 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 and all of that stuff. And it served us in a huge way. But is it really still in alignment? Is it really still beneficial for us to give power to that, to use that as a way to keep ourselves busy or distracted? Now, as much as a lot of the things that we've given power for so many years and invested a lot of energy and time in, to establish that within ourselves, along the way, those were all experiences at this point in time. However, we have the freedom to let it go, and it's not really something else. So, when we want to redesign a new world, we got to redesign ourselves, and we got to redesign every system that was designed in the old world. Because, like I was showing before, the old world is reflective of that inverted matrix, inverted 3D, 2D way of life. And yes, some of the operating systems, some of the role players that came on the planet, yes, are based on some of these really separated, low vibration, low consciousness state of being, and the reflective beings that have, participating in rewriting the operating system accordingly. And that's why the inverted matrix became part of it and all that stuff. And the ego, the artificial intelligence, or the AI, which, people are afraid of, we've already had in our system for a long time. It's just other levels of AI at this point. regardless how we look at it, we've made a choice on a collective scale that we're going to move through this, that we're going to redesign every part of it, that we're not going to give power to the old system. But many of us have a tough time letting go because, we have a lot of invested energy, time, and so forth, and it becomes unless it becomes a hot potato where it becomes very uncomfortable, we don't let it go. And it's becoming very, very uncomfortable. So, yeah, it's purposeful in stimulating real change. And some of us really, really need the chaos because our attachments to the idea that if everything is moving forward in a safe, comfortable way, whatever that may be, that then it's going to be good, or that we live some dream of some sort, that most of it was created inverted in matrix, inverted 3D, 2D type of state. And that's not really, because that's too small for us. We've outgrown those designs. We have outgrown that way of experiencing life. This is the thing. We outgrown it because we've spent time. We've looked at it. Collectively, when it was originally designed 15,000 years ago, all that we're experiencing now was not ever plugged in. Was not part of the experience at all. The heavy polarity, all of that stuff, was not part of the experience. A certain level of polarity, yes, absolutely. We have to understand polarity does exist and has been utilized for quite some time within our solar system, our galaxy, and our universe. And, but the degree, the way it works, all of those things have changed. They're no longer the way it used to be. Those polarities that were occurring, even the wars and ideas of conflict or whatever else that was happening in the galactics, have changed. The different participants working with us, even a galactic federation, which we'll talk about in another episode, have changed because they've played in polarity. They've played in unconsciousness. They don't think that they're the highest consciousness. Yeah, they have a certain level of consciousness. They may have access to certain technologies. They may have certain skill sets that many of us have participated and have been in those physical forms before and played out different roles. However, that's not the ultimate. There's no beings that really understand the human experience better than somebody that has, is coming from that being state and takes on a human form and gets to live through that human form. Even with myself coming from a whole different universe and being that the soul was one of the engineers or the key engineer and designer of what retooling of planet Earth, could not appreciate, understand the depth, and be able to work to the degree that is required unless you take on a human form, go through the experiences, go through the different programs, go through the different polarities, go through all of that. So now, the refinement of all the back-end work and even the front-end work of what we're doing right now got refined because of that. And that's what we have been doing ourselves. So, it has been required. I think that's it. I thought I had one more, but I don't. Cool. We did really good, guys. So unless I need it, I'm going to leave that right there. Was there any other questions, comments, or anything of that nature? 3 cents from your end, because you're the wise one here, the one that's, knows it all, experiences it all. That is from your angelic, archaic angel departments and all of that stuff.
No, I think you did a fine job there, Franco. I have nothing more to add at this point.
All right. So, if we go back right from the beginning, is just existing this current life our true purpose and meaning? Good question to ask. Is it? No. The existence is the existence, but our existence is not stagnant. It's not the end all. Our purpose has been to come and experience this game. But at the same time, to advance, and to advance the playground, advance the human experience, advance our souls, our human entities, our bodies, Gaia, and everything involved within the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe. That's our purpose. And we're going to all do it differently. We're all going to play various roles. Not one role is better than the other. Some roles have taken on a bigger chunk that may have to be more present out in the world. Others are just holding certain energy and are just changing their reality. Others are experiencing certain parts of whatever is going on. Don't see yourself better or less than anyone else. We're all instrumental. We're all powerful beings. We are all source. We are all here now, more than ever, to play an upgraded role and to be on the forerun of making it happen by our engagement, by our direction of what we do and how we do it, and so forth. So this stuff that we've been experiencing, a lot of the, uncomfortableness, all the challenges that we've been experiencing and so forth that we've been feeling within ourselves, it's really because of the changes that are happening within ourselves, and it's bringing the higher, truer essence, if you want to call it that. When I say truer essence, we're bringing in the more specified, upgraded version, designed aspect of what this human playground, human physical expression was there. And when you're bringing in that part of it, each one of us has a specific signature. This specific signature applies with our soul, but there are different signatures within our body and also our human entity. And all of it has come together to play together. So that's what we're here to do. Thank you again for participating, playing today. Thank you for your support. We're always open to receive at this point in time to support us to do our work. And more to come as we go along. We are, of course, going to be playing much more deeper into it, specifically now, since the push is to not only create more content, but to create different forms of content, which are already in play, that will be released shortly. And, you're making it possible by your support. You're making it possible by everything that you are doing. So thank you again. Until next time, go out and play and have a blast.